Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and over the course of the last few days, and probably the last week or so, I've gotten a whole lot of questions asking what's the best spec for Mythic Zeros for Warlocks at the moment, and what's going to be the best spec and the best configuration for all three specs heading into Mythic Plus Week 1. Now, I was planning on originally holding off on making this video until after Blizzard had released their first tuning pass, but they mentioned recently in the Q&A that they're not actually going to be doing so until after the first week of Mythic Plus, which also directly coincides with the release of Heroic Uldir. So let's take a look at all three Warlock specs and what I believe are going to be the best configurations heading into Mythic Plus specifically for Week 1. Now this is the configuration of talents that I ran for the vast majority of Mythic Zeros on stream this week, as well as the vast majority of Mythic Plus that I ran on beta. The build of Flashover, Reverse Entropy, Cataclysm, Grimoire of Sacrifice, and Channel Demon Fire brings a whole lot of utility to your Mythic Plus group, as well as a substantial amount of burst damage. Flashover being a passive that grants you an additional charge of Backdraft, as well as increasing Conflagrate's damage by 25% is really nice and allows you to, at times, fit in 3 Chaos Bolts in a Havoc window. While Reverse Entropy is not a 100% uptime anymore as it used to be, your spells having a chance to grant you 15% haste for 8 seconds is still really powerful and almost like a mini Heroism of Sense. I wish Shadow Burn was a bit better, but unfortunately it's just not really where you want to be right now, and Internal Combustion makes Immolate play just honestly pretty gross in Mythic Plus, as well as just being too time consuming and too much to manage on trash packs. In the level 60 row we have Inferno, Fire and Brimstone, and Cataclysm is the clear-cut choice here, with it both being a gain on single target DPS, like literally you open on this on boss attempts, as well as a huge single target gain on trash, and enabling the Cataclysm in the Channel Demon Fire windows. The cool thing about Cataclysm is that when you open on large trash packs with it, it also applies Immolate to all the targets in the pack, which after you cast that, you can channel a Demon Fire, then typically go into a Havoc window and launch 2 to 3 Chaos Bolts, depending on how many charges of Conflagrate you have up in your Reverse Entropy procs. Grimoire of Sacrifice is the talent that I've chosen in the level 90 row, and you could make a case for Roaring Blaze. Just the only real complaint that I would say about Roaring Blaze, or issue that I've run into, is that in Havoc windows, a decent bit of the time you're actually casting 2 Conflagrates and you're clipping the actual Roaring Blaze dot, because it doesn't actually stack when you cast one with it already being up, it literally just resets it. I found a lot of utility with Grimoire of Sacrifice. Obviously, the Command Demon ability is back, so you get a spell lock to your character, as well as a effective 3rd health cooldown with your Voidwalker, or certain things that the Imp and Succubus bring as well. In the last row, we have Soul Conduit, Channel Demon Fire, and Dark Soul Instability. Obviously, Cataclysm in the Channel Demon Fire is exceptionally powerful on trash and will lead to some pretty strong burst windows. You still won't burst higher than like a Frost Mage or a Warrior, but like we said, tuning is coming in a week. So, Cataclysm in the Channel Demon Fire is really strong on trash packs, as well as Channel Demon Fire being really strong on single targets, so it's an all-around really strong choice. Now, as far as opening on trash bowls goes with Destruction, you're basically going to open on the basic opener we've done for a long time now with Cataclysm, and it'll Channel Demon Fire here. And if you had Gun Drop your Infernal in this pack, now's a good time. Cause Havoc one of your targets, you can throw up a Conflagrate, and typically you're actually able to squeeze in 3 Chaos Bolts here. There's 1, there's 2, Conflagrate again, puts you at 3 shards. Here's 3, there's 3 Havoc Chaos Bolts there, and as you can see here, some really strong initial burst damage. You're not going to have Cataclysm back up for probably another 20 seconds here, so you're going to go through back and individually reapply your Immolates here. You can get another Channel Demon Fire in at this point, and just keep launching your Chaos Bolts here, as you're probably going to be pretty close to Shard Cap with your Infernal still being down. At this point, you have about 3 or 4 seconds until your Immolates hit your Pandemic window, so you're going to hold your Cataclysm for a second. We're in the Pandemic window now, we can drop it again, and we actually have another Backdraft charge here with Conflagrate, and we can go into another Havoc window. This is basically all you're going to do as far as destruction and damage goes on trash. You have a lot of initial upfront burst damage, and then once your Havoc window goes down, you basically go into more of a single target DPS, I would say rotation, until Havoc and Cataclysm come back off a cooldown once again. Now, as far as Affliction Talents go from Mythic Plus, this is the build that I would recommend for Week 1. The build of Deathbolt, Absolute Corruption, Phantom Singularity, Haunt, and Creeping Death is going to bring a whole lot of DPS to your group, especially with Trash living a lot longer, and it's been the go-to build for both myself and the vast majority of the Warlock community. Now in the level 15 row, we have the choice basically of Deathbolt or Drain Soul here, and the clear-cut choice is Deathbolt by a mile. Unfortunately, Drain Soul and Nightfall are pretty undertuned right now, and they are one of the few talents I'm actually hoping gets a bit of a buff in the coming week or so. In the level 30 row, we have Absolute Corruption as a choice here over Writhe and Agony, and this is partially due to the fact that Absolute Corruption's interaction with Creeping Death is really powerful, and also due to the fact that it's just really hard to maintain both Agony and Corruption on 4 to 5 targets right now if Corruption's not permanent, with our haste levels just being so abysmally low right now. I think I'm sitting at like right around 13% or so right now at 345 item level. In the level 60 row here, we have Phantom Singularity, and it's mainly due to the fact that, well, I guess so, the Seeds has been nerfed. We all know that at this point. It sends 2 seeds into the target instead of 3 like it used to. The damage was buffed a bit to compensate, but overall Phantom Singularity is going to be a pretty strong gain on single target encounters and also on multiple AoE trash pack pulls. Now in the level 90 row, you basically have the choice of either Haunt or Grimoire of Sacrifice here. Grimoire of Sacrifice here is basically the same way it is with Destruction, obviously giving you the Command Demon ability depending on whatever pet you sacrifice. But in my opinion here, the clear-cut winner is actually Haunt. Mainly due to the fact that it gives you a decent bit more single target damage on boss encounters. There's also a good bit of play with it on trash. As you notice here, it says if the target dies, Haunt's cooldown is reset, which allows you on a decent bit of trash pack to actually spread your Seed of Corruption, putting up your absolute corruptions, get a few agonies out, summon your Dark Lair, which damage is increased by every single dot you have active on all targets, focusing down one specific mob with Haunt and then Unstable Afflictions, and really allowing a lot of priority focus damage on one target. Now, as far as talent choices go, in the level 100 row, we have the option of Soul Conduit, Creeping Death, or Dark Soul Misery, and once again, I would say the clear-cut winner here is Creeping Death, due to the fact that we're taking Absolute Corruption. Also, its interaction is with all your dots. It's a passive and says your Agony, Corruption, Siphon Life, and Unstable Affliction deal their full damage 15% faster. Now, obviously, having your dots deal their full damage 15% faster means you're dealing more damage on trash, which is already an area that Affliction suffers with a bit on trash pulls, with having your Agony to ramp up and then getting your Phantom Singularity out. Even on specific trash pulls where you want to focus down one mob, whether it's a mini-boss or just a priority mob in general, it does take a little while for your dots to actually get ramped up damage-wise, so having a bonus to that is exceptionally powerful. Dark Soul Misery is a bit of an option as well, but you're really going to see more of a gain on single target damage with Dark Soul Misery. And also due to the fact that you're not going to have it up for every single trash pull, with it being a 2-minute cooldown, just makes Creeping Death the go-to choice here. Now, the main difference we have between Destruction's trash damage and Affliction's trash damage is that Destruction's damage is really front-loaded with Cataclysm and the Channel Demon Fire and to a large Havoc window. Affliction's damage takes a lot longer to ramp up, which is one of the main reasons as to why everyone's asking, why is Affliction's trash damage so bad right now? It's really not. Well, it might be bad right now, but all the mobs are dying in 5 seconds right now. Once we get into Mythic Plus next week and mobs live a lot longer, whether it's a fortified week or just in a hierarchy in general, Affliction's going to do a lot more sustained damage on trash than a Destruction can. So taking a look at how we'd open on trash here as Affliction. With tanks running in the poll right now, we're going to pre-cast Seed of Corruption. And as soon as Seed of Corruption hits, we're actually going to cast Haunt. And then we're going to actually just tab target Agony onto all 4 of our targets here. And at this point, we're going to tab back to our main target still has Haunt rolling on it. Put up Phantom Singularity, a few Unstable Afflictions, summon our Dark Lair, and launch a Death Bolt here. And at this point, we're basically just going to maintain our dots here. We're going to refresh Haunt here as it's falling. We have a few seconds here before Agony start falling off the rest of our targets, so we can get 2 more Shadow Bolts off here. Refresh Agony, 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 and Agony. Tab back to our main target here. And well, I do want to talk about this here. One of the main things being, if you're trying to focus on a priority target here with Affliction, you should actually dump multiple Unstable Afflictions into that target. If it's something that's like casting a spell that really needs to be taken care of quickly, or if it's a mini-boss. But if you're trying to kill all targets basically at the same time, or you don't really care which ones die first, it's better to actually tab target and spread your Unstable Afflictions in a way where they all have 1 or so rolling on them, because they do have that 10% bonus dot damage baked into Unstable Affliction. Now, as far as Demonology talents go for Mythic Plus, this is the build that I found to be most powerful towards the end of beta testing before the nerfs, and even with a bit of play after the nerfs and the buffs we received a few weeks ago. The build of Demonic Strength, Demonic Calling, Soul Strike, Inner Demons, and Sacrifice Souls has pretty much been the go-to for Mythic Plus for me, and in the brief testing that I've done so far in Mythic Zeros, I found the build to be pretty powerful still as well. Now, in the level 15 row, we have Demonic Strength, which is the clear-cut winner over both Dreadlash and Bioscorch Bombers. Demonic Strength is one of your strongest AoE spells, and it's only on a 1-minute cooldown. And being able to save this in addition to a few imps for implosion when transitioning from one pack to another leads to some really strong bursts when you easily outburst something like a Frost Mage or a Warrior at this point in time. In the level 30 row, we have Demonic Calling being the choice over both Power Siphon and Doom. Demonic Calling basically says both Shadow Bolt and Demon Bolt have a small chance to make your called Dreadstalkers cost 1 Soul Shard and also be instant cast. This is really nice. It offers Demonology a bit more mobility, which is something that the class has suffered with a bit in the past. Not as much as now as it was in Legion, but it's still a thing, and having some added mobility is obviously really nice. Now in the level 60 row, I've chosen the Soul Strike talent over both From the Shadows and Summon Vile Fiend, mainly due to the fact it's only on a 10-second cooldown. It's an instant cast, and it also generates 1 Soul Shard, which makes it another ability we can use on the move, while also generating resources for us to use when we stop moving out of abilities or mechanics, whatever we're moving for. In the level 90 row, I've chosen Inner Demons, which is honestly mainly the only option we have here. It's really viable. For a while, Grimoire Felgar was like the main go-to choice here, but right before BFA's pre-patch actually launched, its damage was cut in half and its cooldown was increased by, I believe, 45 or so seconds, which made it go from the clear-cut #1 choice to not being very good at all anymore, so we're back to Inner Demons. In level 100, we have the option of Sacrifice Souls, Demonic Consumption, and Nether Portal. Nether Portal is basically a single target talent, which is probably something you're going to use more so for boss encounters and things of the sort playing Demonology. It's a pretty cool talent and it really changes up your rotation a lot, but it's not something you're really ever going to want to use in Mythic Plus. Demonic Consumptions, it's a passive and says whenever you summon your Demonic Tyrant, it consumes and basically destroys all your wild imps and deals a lot more damage itself. Obviously, it's a pretty cool talent, it's pretty awesome, but it doesn't play very well with Implosion, which is basically your main AoE spell outside of Demonic Strength, the Hand of Ghoul and Splash damage. So it doesn't really play very well in Mythic Plus with trash pulls and things either. Which leads us to Sacrifice Souls here. It's a passive and says that Shadow Bolt and Demon Bolt deal 5% additional damage per demon you have summoned. So it's basically very similar to the way the old Demon Bolt actually functioned, I would say, in Warlock's Draenor and things of the sort, having each pet buffing your Shadow Bolt and Demon Bolt's damage, which is always pretty nice. And this is pretty much going to be your clear-cut choice heading into Mythic Plus as well for Demonology. Each spec does have its own strengths and weaknesses when it comes to Mythic Plus, however. As we just covered, Affliction needs a good bit of time to ramp up on Trash with Agony and your other dots, but brings the strongest single target damage out of all 3 specs, especially in dark weather windows and if you can open fights on 100 stacks of Inevitable Demise. Destruction offers strong initial burst with Cataclysm into Channel Demon Fire and then a Havoc window, but cannot sustain its high burst damage after the window's fallen. Its single target damage is slightly above average, but a good bit lower than the single target damage that Affliction can put out. The Destruction-specific Crashing Chaos trait, however, really pushes Destruction's damage up both on boss encounters as well as trash pulls when you can make good use of Havoc. Unfortunately, outside of Conflagrate, Destruction does not have many spells that it can actually cast on the run, which in my opinion makes it the least mobile spec out of the 3, excluding the rare occurrence when Rain of Fire is actually good. Demonology offers the highest trash burst damage out of all 3 specs, and also does a good job at maintaining respectable amounts of AoE throughout the pull. Having Soul Strike, Demonic Calling, Demonic Core, and Implosion as options to cast on the move gives the spec much more mobility than it had in Legion, and really helps with sustaining trash damage as well. Pet management does come into play much more than it does with both Destruction and Affliction, with spells like Implosion, Fellstorm, and Demonic Strength making up a great bit of irritation, but hey, that's what the class is meant to be about. Destruction will bring a good bit of damage to lower Mythic Plus keys, where trash will be dying relatively quickly and bosses won't last too long. Affliction will be a great choice for fortified weeks in a higher setting, where trash will actually be living for a good bit of time. Having enough time for Agony to ramp up, not to mention Inevitable Demise ramp up time, will really help boost Affliction's trash DPS. Demonology will bring a good bit of burst and sustain trash AoE in both settings, but I would like to see its single target damage improved a bit, hopefully in next week's tuning pass. At this point, Affliction is my first choice and recommendation for heading into Mythic Plus next week, followed by Destruction and then Demonology. I do want to say and also stress that I feel all 3 specs are totally viable for Mythic Plus in their current states, but at this point in time, Affliction will bring the best damage and greatest utility to your group. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this helped y'all with choosing what spec and build you're looking to play next week in Mythic Plus and beyond. If you want any of the week orders you've seen here, there's a link in my Discord as well as my Twitch channel, which are both in the description below. Let me know what you guys are planning on playing in the comments below, and what changes, if any, you're hoping to see in next week's tuning pass. If you guys want to see more WoW content and help support the channel, smash those like, share, and subscribe buttons, as your support really helps. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you in battle for Azeroth. Peace.